Right. Greetings to all and sundry. Chancellor North Wales here. Afraid there isn't a build video yet, but there has been good progress. So tonight I'll be an update on the Brick Modeler What If group build. I'll be a couple of shout outs for some new gentlemen posting videos, and quick discussion about some of the other projects and activities going on, and partly in response to one of Bad Grendel's videos about choices and the role modelling plays in our life. So a little bit of a discussion on that, and a bit of a discussion on what's been happening on the wargaming side as well. So that's what's lined up for this evening's discourse. Right, we'll begin with where are we up to on projects. I must admit this has been 2 pretty good weeks for it, and as I mentioned in my previous video, I'd decided to do a heavily modified hind for the Brit Modeler, which is a modelling forum group build, and progress has been pretty good. I've managed to avoid getting bogged down on interiors, as I sometimes do with projects, and have tried to get the core form together. Now, as from the previous video, I'd taken the Airfix hind, the Ravel Cobra, the Airfix Bukhara as being my 3 main source kits, and as it was, I also happened to have a old DO27 that I'd used as a kit to develop airbrushing techniques, and that had taken a tumble off a shelf and was in a bit of a sorry state, so it became a source of parts as well. So we'll take a quick look at what's been achieved so far. And this gentleman is the Beastie, the MI 26 hammer. You can see its hind origins, the Cobra cockpit, the Bukhara engines, mounted and inverted. The wings were heavily spliced from the Bukhara. I cut the engines out. I spliced back the inboard section of the wing. The tail plane is a mixture of the Bukhara's horizontal stabilizers and our vertical stabilizers, and the Dornier 27 wing, the outboard section, plus its tail, with also the tail extension from the aft fuselage of the Cobra forming that element. The propeller, the upper, I should know what this calling is, the upper engine cowling, yes, I believe that, or gearbox cowling from the Cobra as well is being mounted on the top, and the engine pods are from the DO27 form the exhaust nacelles from the on the hind hammer. I was able to locate 6 hard points under each wing, and there'll be the location for a turreted weapon tucked away under the fuselage. The gap you see there is the undercarriage bay. I'll probably cut that out. So fair bit of progress. Last night I brought all the primary sub-assemblies together. Now need some heavy cleaning up, and I mean a fair bit more work to go, but I would say over 2 weeks of fairly frantic kit bashing, filling, and that side of it. In terms of techniques, of lately, and particularly from Coadito's comments on the use of super glue, I must admit I tried the stuff. use super glue more to attach parts. I must admit, in this case, I've made extensive use of it for gap filling and as a backup to conventional polystyrene cement. So I join the components up with polystyrene cement and then back it up with super glue. So taking a two-part approach. If I say how it's gone together, it's basically been, well, with a build like this, it's not so much how the thing goes together, because you know it's not going to particularly go together, and it is, as you can see, pretty filler and other material intensive, but it is proving to be thoroughly fun. For those of you uncertain of this concept, I would suggest you take a look at the Eurocopter 3X, which takes the approach of two outboard props driven by transfer shafts from the main engine. As the aircraft speeds up, the wings generate more lift. The prop is progressively generates less and less lift in from a conventional helicopter perspective, until it's functioning more as an autogyro as rotors. This concept, and it's been tested on various test systems. Take a look at some of the work conducted by Bell. If from a historical perspective, you may want to take a look at the Fairy Rotodyne. Similar such concepts of systems of aircraft that sit in the transition area between a helicopter and a fixed-wing aircraft. Now, the core design, my core brief, was to take that fundamental concept and update a Hind. If you consider that at present, and having recently read Air Forces Monthly, the Hinds are being increasingly retired from Eastern European air forces, meaning there's going to be a surplus of airframes. This is a what if on a potential way of utilising it. I have prepared an assortment of ordnance to hang underneath the wings, and I'll be picking either a Russian Navy colour scheme or a colour scheme to suit the Arctic environment. So I must admit, it's been a good run and a rather enjoyable build. Now, I suppose to every silver lining there is a cloud, and the driver behind, or what I felt why the build process has been particularly therapeutic, has been that stress levels at work have been pretty obscene the past couple of weeks. And many people work to live. I'm afraid I fall into the category of living to work, and I take my job very personally, particularly issues when I feel integrity is challenged, or I am asked to work or utilise methodologies that I don't agree with, based upon, in this case, based upon fundamental evaluation principles. I think it's best to go into further depths than that. Needless to say, things have been rather fraught, and I have come home on a few occasions pretty much like a bear with a sore head. In those times, I won't deny that the throwing myself into the build has helped get my head straight. I think that's the best way of describing it. It's been a deeply involved build, and I have been able to switch off and put some distance between myself and the joys of statistical analysis. Process analysis, I think is the best way to describe that. Now, John Bad Reynolds mentioned the idea of choices. Now, I won't go into choices from a family perspective, But I will say that we do have a choice as to how we manage our feelings. We're not entirely slave to the mental processes, and we do have a choice on how angry or wound up we allow ourselves to be to some extent. We also have a responsibility to our families to be able to leave things at home. Sometimes I won't deny I've not been too successful at that. And retreating to my man cave here, study, whatever term to call it, is probably as much of a relief as any I can possibly find. So yeah, one thing leads to another, and in this case fundamental disagreements have led to progress on a damn enjoyable modelling project. If I have a note here, I should explain before I start my inane warbling. I will make a few topic notes, and that's really what I'm looking at here. And one of them was on the role of modelling. My history with modelling it's always been a connection for me with my fascination with aviation. I feel we engage with the subject by building a model of it. It makes it a little bit more personal. My own experience of, how can I say, live aircraft has been predominantly in the civilian market. I was fortunate enough as a cadet to get close to Harriers for a week at RAF Wittering, but as my career has always been engineering focused, before I got into the aircraft industry, I was involved in everything from process engineering on greenhouses, stair lifts, oil water separators, refrigeration plant, a wide variety of projects and systems and roles ranging from draftsman to production engineers. A role that has contained. Anyway, modelling is, as a youngster for me, helped me to create a sense of connection, or was connected to my fascination for aviation. And it was always something that, oh, this is what the lad does, that's being my parents' perspective, and he'll grow out of it. I can fairly safely, I'm rather glad to say I haven't. I did the usual, what I call modelling or hobby demographics, that we have our hobbies, we let them drop when we go off to uni, and then we pick them up again once we have a wife and kids and suddenly realise, good grief, I used to have hobbies. And a few years ago, and I should explain, I collected an awful lot of die-cast models, die-cast aircraft. I have a separate cabinet full of the damn things. Principally on the rule that I never felt that my modelling skills could do the subject justice. A tendency for me to hold aircraft and those behind them with a certain degree of reverence. Nonetheless, a few years ago I returned to model building, and the first aircraft on that return for me was the Lockheed Hudson. This is the Italieri kit, the main reason being that as a youngster I had particularly good memories of building the Airfix 1, and this marked my first return. I mean, I should explain, I'd been painting numerous war games miniatures and churning out an awful lot of 1/72nd scale armoured kits, so it wasn't like a complete return to modelling as such, but there's a significant difference for myself between modelling for models for display and producing models for tabletop wargaming. It's an issue of mentality, it's an issue of the perception of the functionality of the model and the innate relationship we have with our subject. Ultimately, this is built as a display model. Now you can see it's had a tumble from the shelf and all the rest of it, but I built it because it brought back happy memories. I had a great time with the Airfix 1, and this was to see what else I could do. And okay, I think it would be, if I was now to redo the kit, it would be somewhat different, but it was a nice return. So modelling for me still remains an extension of a lifelong passion for aviation. I suppose I class myself fortunate now as being able to engage it on a professional basis as well. And when I visit airports, you think, yeah, I had a part in one of the great beasties ascending skyward. But as our perception and our relationship with subjects change from childhood to adulthood, for me, after starting off at something, rediscovering, and then discovering that I had a particular fondness for rotary wing aircraft and then Russian subjects, so I have, as you may be aware from my videos and stuff, I do have taken something of a Russian focus and nurtured Russian contacts, because I like to research a subject, dig into it and spend time, put together a photo gallery of reference photos, and one thing leads to another. So in looking for Russian aircraft, I find myself exploring other Russian themes, including music, social culture, and that side of it. It all seems to be an interconnected side for me. That doesn't mean I classify myself as a Russophile, but certainly have a much greater appreciation and understanding of culture and motivators. The other side I would say is, as an engineer, I retain a admiration for straightforward, robust engineering, and regard certain platforms, say as the IL-2 Sturmovik, as a classic of aeronautical design, the AK-47 as a classic of firearms design, principally because of its robust functionality, which, when we look at it from a process perspective, in my mind, be it a dark design classic, it remains, in my mind, a design classic that, when we look at things from serviceability and utility, I hold it up at saying, if we're producing a system or a production device, it is a worthwhile inspiration. Simple, straightforward, robust, and effective, and user-proof is something I find myself returning to in development work and in process development, time after time after time. Now again, I've digressed somewhat, but what I'm saying is, the reason why I find myself drawn to Russian subjects is that you see in it, in the fundamentals of the core design philosophy, something that I personally admire. Even though we endeavour to advance technologies, we do also realise that the engagement of the technology with the end user is a critical aspect of it, and it is in that side that I am drawn towards the Russian subjects. Okay, so that's part of, we talk about our modelling motivators. I think from the language I've used here, you can see I never really switch off from being an engineer or metrologist. I live and breathe my job, and in many respects, I realise it even reflects in my language. So people are thinking, what on earth is this guy warbling on about? And I do apologise for that. So before I start, my viewers start playing buzzword bingo, I will move on to other more conducive subjects, shall we say. Right, the wargaming side. Well, as regular listeners may know, I'm been something of a dystopian wars junkie, that is steampunk science fiction warfare. And last Friday, after saying I'd pretty much had enough I got to 3-4 o'clock at work, I headed off to the Wargame store up in Brimstage on the Wirral, and with the goal of picking up a Spartan game supplement for Dystopian Wars, that is Storm of Steel. It wasn't in. I ended up coming away with the Republic of France army box. Now, those of you who view my channel will know I posted a painting video for the Republic of France Navy. I may well do one for painting the ground force. What I was struck by this, and I probably should do a separate video, and this suddenly becomes Charles's Wargaming channel. I do both hobbies, and both hobbies play a part, so you're now going to see a little bit of an unboxing. For some of you modelers, don't switch off, because you may find a subject here, or a source of models that you may find interesting as standalone projects. So, I wasn't going to really do an unboxing, but it appears to be heading that way. So what do we get in our box? Okay, so something that has become an unboxing, but nonetheless. We have a French Land Cruiser. Basically, if you consider that the scale here is 1/1200th, a sort of a small fortress on caterpillar tracks would be the best way to describe this. There are turrets, metal turrets to be added onto it. So you get that as your large vehicle in the set. You have the bases. You have, as they always supply, the the market tokens. For those of you familiar with the game, it's for tracking damage, casualties, morale statuses, and other aspects of the game. A set of turning templates that you cut out and then you use to guide your vehicle when you're initiating a turning maneuver, and a couple of blast templates. You also have in here a bag of bases for their small tanks. If you consider on a base that sits about an inch square, you have two very small tanks, and there are 10 of these. There are also all wrapped up in their custom-made bubble wrap. 3 mobile artillery pieces, called bombards. Again, I'll hold my hand still so you can see them. Molded in Spartan Games high quality resin, no visible bubbles on the main surfaces. A beautiful sculpt, and will be relatively easy to paint, and the Games Workshop washers will work exceedingly well with it. So you have 3 of those, and you have 6 of their one-piece medium tanks. Now, a medium tank, I think we can, if we appreciate the nature of the scale, this is the size of a couple of houses. So I think, let's not be thinking we're looking at it. Something like a Sherman would be one of these vehicles, and this would be somewhat bigger with the Lang. So I'll basically describe yourself. If you're facing one of the small ones, you're facing a vehicle the size of a Sherman. One of these, you're facing a vehicle that's the size of about 2 domestic houses, and one of these you are, I think it would be best to describe, would be an apartment block heading towards you, bristling with numerous weapons. So that gives you a sense of scale. The total cost for that lot came to, it's better to take a look at it. because I don't want to get this wrong, but £28.50 from the War Game Store in Brimstage. So if we add, what would it be, about 0.5 of that, we are in, for our American friends, that would probably equate to about $40, which for a starter box set is, I think, exceedingly good value for money, and that's one reason why it was such good value for money that I spent even more on it and bought a few blister packs, just increasing the size of the existing vehicles, more of the light armour, more of the artillery pieces, more of the medium armour, and some towers as well. Oh, I did forget that in the box set you also get the little booklet giving you the details, like almost a mini codex for the Republic of France. These pieces, if you think these are, the towers are effectively fortifications, and you get 2 in a pack with an assortment of weapon systems to mount atop them. Again, this is all in white resin. So again, I can't actually, there's a tiny mold bubble here, but I don't think that, given the resolution of my rather cheap, well, not cheap, yeah, okay, of my rather aged webcam, you probably didn't see that on that due to its image resolution. But that has been where my a little bit of release has been. I've had a couple of very good games of Dystopian Wars recently. My French fleet gave a fleet from the Covenant of the Antarctica a jolly good battering, and I also gave the Prussians a jolly good battering fairly recently, so it's been quite satisfying from that perspective, but the truth of the matter is it's just good fun to get in a game. So that's an exploration or discussion on my activities on that side of it. Now to go over to there's a few things about the YouTube community. As always, it's been a pleasure to watch the many videos. I realise I'm probably oversubscribed. I'm subscribed to probably too many people. I think now the number of subscribers I had, not like that I have, but the number of YouTube video channels I'm subscribed to is in excess of 250. So sometimes that becomes a bit difficult to track people. However, I would like to give a shout out to 2 new gentlemen on the YouTube modelling community. First chap is a gentleman by the name of Big Daddy 444. He's an American gentleman with seems to have a penchant currently for cars, but he's just starting out. Only has 4 videos, but I would suggest check his channel out and subscribe. I'll put some in the notes section down here, or in the notes section attached to this video, links to his channel. So he's definitely worth checking out. And another chap going by the name of Holden, that's Holden Scale Models, again just new to YouTube. I would suggest take a look at his videos and give him some support and his encouragement to keep on posting and keep on showing his skills with the styrene. I think he mentioned his interest in rotary in helicopters, so I'm looking forward to seeing some helicopter builds. Another chap who, amongst the war gamers here, many of you may well be familiar with, Voices of Mars, I've been particularly impressed by a couple of his videos recently, in particular the ones about wargaming etiquette. I think check him out. I think that's a good way of saying it. I will also give a shout out to the much enjoyed videos of Atomic Dog. Your output of chats remains very much appreciated. Please keep them churning them out, mate. I do enjoy listening to it. And likewise, it's been great to watch Coolodito's videos. His discussion about airbrushes is well worth watching as well. So I have rambled on about many subjects. I've highlighted the guys that have been recently a particular inspiration in terms of their videos, and there will be notes attached to this. So once again, thank you for listening, for taking the time to listen, and I wish you all happy modelling, and let's keep on seeing the YouTube videos coming out there. Let's keep on seeing your projects, guys. Inspiration comes from many directions, and when you think people might not be interested in it, you may well be lifting somebody's spirits or opening their eyes to another potential project or avenue of modelling. So I will wish all and sundry all the best, and I will see you guys in the next video.